Hello, my witchy friends. Today I wanted to do a very sleepy flip through of the Green Witch. Your complete guide to the natural magic of herbs, flowers, essential oils, and more. And I came across this book a long time ago already. I've had it on my shelf for a couple of months. And I really just think that it's beautiful. The cover and the spine and this sort of papery binding is really nice. And it's part of a series of books that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. But I know this isn't necessarily a book I would normally read because it's not quite academic, but it does have a lot of ties to cunning folk. And if you know anything about cunning folk, they were practitioners of folk magic and healing. They usually lived on the outskirts of villages. And I just thought that reminded me a lot of those traditions. So, in the spirit of the Green Witch, I have a couple of bundles of fresh flowers with me today. On my left side, I have some beautiful chamomile flower. And if you know anything about chamomile, if you drink tea, you know that it is very relaxing. You'll often find it in blends with lemon balm and other soothing herbs. And the part of the chamomile flower that is used in tea is the little bulb here, the center of the flower. And it's just one of my favorite flowers to purchase and have around in the springtime, just because it has such a lovely fragrance. And when I'm done with these flowers, or when they start to droop a little bit, I will tie them up and upside down, and I will dry them out, and they'll get a second life in a little cup of tea. That's one of the best things to do with chamomile flowers. And on my right hand side, we have a branch of forsythia. As you can see, it's a really long branch of forsythia. And forsythia symbolizes anticipation in Victorian flower language. It was often given to people if they had a major event coming up in their lives, like marriage, childbirth. And I'm sure many of you know that in Victorian flower language, yellow symbolizes friendship. So you do get that element of symbolism with forsythia as well. So I got a couple of flowers to symbolize the coming of spring. The days are finally getting longer. The snow is melting. There's hope and anticipation in the air, and it feels really nice. So let's take a little look at the Green Witch. Okay, so there's a dedication purification and acknowledgements, and a little table of contents. And let's start with the introduction, perhaps, because that makes the most sense. Whatever your reasons for seeking balance, you'll find that harmonizing yourself with the energy of nature can help you break free from the stressors in your life, and focus on the here and now. And there is no better way to explore the bounty of nature than by following the path of the Green Witch. The way of the Green Witch is the path of the naturalist, the herbalist, and the healer. It is a free-form, flexible, and personalized practice for anyone who wants to explore the gifts of nature and use them to find balance and harmony in life. With the Green Witch, you'll find the information you need to develop and nurture the spiritual practice of green witchcraft. From advice on walking the green path in the modern world to information on essential herbs, plants, trees, stones, and more, you'll find recipes, exercises, ritual suggestions, and directions for making potions and herbal blends for purposes both mundane and magical. From issues such as the history of the practice to creating your own individual traditions, the Green Witch is a positive and practical guide for the modern Green Witch trying to connect with nature in today's society. What is so relevant and unique about green witchcraft is that it is a highly specialized and solo practice. Not everyone will be drawn to the same things and practice in the same way. It's about finding a workable balance in your own life within your own setting. The Green Witch works closely with nature and its gifts. She uses natural elements to improve the well-being of the physical body, the spirit, and the environment, and works to establish a personal connection with the natural world. It may seem like a challenge to harmonize with nature in today's technological and industrial world. Fortunately, you don't need to remove or reverse modern influences. What you need to do is discover how to connect your modern life to that earlier knowledge that is waiting for you to find it again. The trick is to recognize the presence of green energy in the world today and to see how it still operates. Listen to the world around you, open your heart, rebalance, and enjoy your journey. So part 1 is discovering the Green Witch. And it starts with, what is green witchcraft? Historically, a green witch lived apart, using the energies of plants and trees around her to heal others. Those who needed her services traveled to see her. These days, a green witch is more likely to be living in the middle of a city or in the suburbs. She could work in any variety of fields. And it says that she's not limited to working with the plants, trees, or herbs. And she's defined by the relationship to the world around her, her ethics, by her affinity with the natural world. The green path. What do we have here? The path of the Green Witch. This is a really important clarification here, I think. Witchcraft is frequently confused with Wicca, which is a modern, alternative, nature-based religion. While Wicca and witchcraft possess many similarities, including reverence for nature, Wicca is a specific formal religion. There There's a wide variety of forms of witchcraft with varying degrees of structure. For the sake of this book, the term witchcraft refers to the practice of working with natural energies to attain goals without a specific religious context. Okay, and then it says this green witches practice, like, not necessarily in the traditional garden and forest setting popularized by fairy tales and romanticized notions. Green witchcraft is not a formal tradition in the sense of Gardnerian Wicca, Dianic Wicca, fairy tradition, or other established forms. It says, when we use the phrase the green witch tradition, we do not refer to an unbroken line of initiates or an established body of lore. Instead, we are referring to the various practices from diverse places that come together to inform the modern green witch and wise woman. Okay. More about individualism, the green witch's outlook, ethics of the green witch path. When I see the word history, I have to read more. A brief history of green witchcraft. The practices of the modern green witch have arisen from folk healers and practitioners of folk magic. The modern green witch finds her foremothers and forefathers in village herbalists, midwives, healers, wise women, and cunning folk who performed particular services for their communities. This is exactly what I was talking about at the beginning of the video. The duties of the spiritual ancestors of the green witch usually included midwifery and preparation of the dead for burial, as well as the use of various plants to heal mind and body. These people possessed knowledge of both life and death. They knew what kinds of witch flora could create both states of existence. These earlier green witches, while often respected, were more often feared or mistrusted because of the knowledge they held. They were often marginalized by their communities and lived alone or away from the social center of the community. Okay. And practitioners of folk magic, those who live on the second branch of the green witch's family tree, are not necessarily separate from the first. Sometimes the healers were also spellcasters who performed folk magic particular to the region, but more often they were just grandmothers who had a talent for fixing things. I think that all of my grandmothers were witches, for sure. And look, there's a little mention of Owen Davies here. We ran into Owen Davies 2 videos ago with the Oxford Illustrated Guide to Witchcraft and Magic. It says, Owen Davies, author of the fascinating Cunning Folk, Popular Magic in English History, explains that as opposed to being healers, cunning folk originally dealt mainly with lifting bewitchments from people who believed themselves to be the victims of a curse or some sort of spell. Witchcraft was the soil in which the careers of the cunning folk grew. When popular belief in witchcraft ended, the roles of the cunning folk ended as well. And there's different paths here. We have kitchen witches, who are family oriented, focus on magic performed in the heart of the modern home, the kitchen. And the kitchen witch bases her magical practice in her everyday household activities. Okay. Cooking, cleaning, baking, and so forth become the foundation for her magical acts. And there's also hedge witches, a term it says used more in the UK than in the US. And that's very true. I heard the term hedge witch much more than I ever have in my life when I was in the UK. When you think of the classic wise woman on the edge of town who was visited for love charms and healing potions, how to identify with the earth, the magic of the Green Witch, spellcraft. Spellcraft? Interesting. Spellcraft is seen as a perfectly natural occurrence along the Green Witch path. Is brewing a cup of rosemary tea for a headache a spell? Or is it natural medicine? To the Green Witch, it doesn't really matter. Interesting. Okay. And there's an oath of the Green Witch that they include as well. Very cool. A prayer. Okay. And there's a section on energy centers, health, love, happiness, peace, abundance, and protection. And tools of use. So because green witchcraft isn't an organized path, there are no required tools or equipment you must have in order to follow it. There are, however, important items almost every green witch uses in her practice. Herbs and plants. With so much emphasis on working with natural energies, it is not surprising that herbs and plants immediately come to mind when one thinks about a green witch. Your hands. A green witch's hands are her most valuable tools. With her hands, she touches and takes in information. Her sense of touch is a keen one. Plants, energy, all of those things. And a journal as well. Interesting. Recording your explorations, field notes, recipes, rituals, and research is of great importance because this record forms the main body of lore to which you will refer again and again in your work. And it says this is not a book of shadows, which is a term used by occultists and Wiccans to describe a record of spells and rituals and magical information. Your Green Witch journal will contain some magical information. Yes, because the Green Witch understands that magic is simply another method of touching the energy of the earth, but mainly it will contain recipes, sketches, maps, experiments, observations, and accounts of your work. There's also a cup, a simple cup. Ceramic is ideal, is a useful term for the Green Witch. It talks about water. The cup is useful to drink from in a ritual setting. And while green witchcraft isn't heavy on ceremony or formal ritual, a familiar tool such as a cup can lend a certain energy to your work if it's reserved only for your practice. Oh, a mortar and pestle. I really should do a video where I'm just crunching up herbs in a mortar and pestle because it has such a satisfying sound. I remember one of my favorite ASMR videos is, of course, by Gentle Whispering, and it's her video, The Good Witch's Ways. And she crushes up rosebuds in a mortar and pestle, and it sounds so good. I always think of that. Bowls, jars and canisters, knife or scissors, a staff or a walking stick. Well, that's amazing. I want a staff or a walking stick. So it's talking about like connectedness to trees. Huh. Okay. So by carrying a walking stick, you're more connected to nature. In Celtic mythology, there were several world trees, which were hazel, oak, and other woods. In shamanic practices, the world tree is often represented by a tent pole, above which which are the stars of the other world. Okay, cotton or gauze. Power bags. So this is like where you can put little objects like stones, acorns, pine cones, little things that you like. And it also suggests that you make your home a sacred space. Lots of suggestions for that. Physical cleaning. Oh, look at this. Broom purification. So there's a little recipe here. A little step-by-step guide on broom purification. So this basic purification with a broom can be done almost any time and anywhere. Do not use a plastic or nylon bristled broom. Find one with real straw bristles. I mean, those are the best ones always. Craft shops and farms open to the public sometimes will sell handmade brooms. For a personal touch, you can make one yourself. Oh my goodness, that's really cool. It says, stand in the middle of the room you intend to purify. Hold the broom in your hands and take 3 deep, slow breaths to calm yourself. Begin to make a sweeping motion, sweeping the broom from your right to your left. Don't actually touch the floor with the broom, but swing the broom an inch or so above it. Oh, there's quite a few steps here. Wow. And there's even a recipe for room purification incense. How to use the 4 elements inside of your home, making element shrines. Long section on shrines, actually. Making a sacred outdoor space. I mean, I garden a lot, and I think of this frequently. I always envision what cunning folks' gardens looked like hundreds of years ago. How did they keep things organized? I would love to organize my own garden in the same way that they did. Okay, be in tune with the earth. It says to attune yourself to nature. And there's a couple little questions here. Use your senses to explore where you live. Ask yourself the following questions and answer them honestly. How did the seasons change where you live? What changes can you see and feel? What influence does the moon have on you? What is the phase of the moon right now? What wild plants are common to your neighborhood? Name at least 10 local plants. Of those 10 plants, which are indigenous to your area and which were imported? When were they imported and by whom? What trees are most commonly found in your neighborhood? Again, which are indigenous and which were deliberately introduced? What wildlife is native to your area? All sorts of other questions. More on environment, working with earth, air, fire, and water, and grounding yourself. Love all these step-by-step guides. It makes it all seem a lot more accessible. Taste, the 6th sense, smell. Oh, the power of the seasons. Awareness of the natural rhythms of the solstices and equinoxes and how they are reflected in her own geographical location form the axis of the Green Witch's practice. It was just spring equinox this past Monday, so that's kind of magical. I've got the solar year and weather cycles. Let's see, is there anything on spring? In North America, although the seasons are determined by the astronomical position of the sun and the earth, meteorologically, the approximate dates March 21st, June 21st, September 21st, and December 21st are used to mark the beginning of spring, summer, fall, and winter. Okay. Oh, and there's different celebrations. There's no right or wrong way to celebrate a solstice or an equinox. Celebrate the way that you want to. The summer solstice, there's a spring meditation here. Maybe I'll read it to you. You're probably trying to fall asleep. Perform this meditation on or around the spring equinox. If the day of the official equinox doesn't work for you, try it around the time of year when there are many new things emerging in the natural environments where you live. Once you have reached a place of comfort deep inside the earth, breathe in that energy and feel it fill your body. Feel the soil's energy at this time of the spring. Feel the potential that vibrates in the earth. Reach out and sense the first movements of roots and seeds where they curl in safety, absorbing the soil's energy and using it to nourish their own life force, growing stronger in their sleep. Sense the slow awakening of these roots and seeds and think about the potential they hold and the luxurious life they will soon display. Remain cradled by the energy of the soil as long as you like, enjoying the feeling of potential and the first stirrings of life. And there's like a meditation structure that you can use for all of these rituals. There's summer garden blessings. All sorts. Oh, there's so many. Ice rituals for the winter solstice. Okay, walking the green path. So it looks like there's a little bit on the sun, moon, and stars. Some zodiac energy correspondences. Okay. I'm a little more interested in, here's some plant stuff. It says, obviously, picking protected plants is illegal. Make a point of familiarizing yourself with the local laws on harvesting wild flora. Find out what the protected species of your area are and help protect them. And it talks about the magic of trees, how trees are the pillar of our world. So there's birch. The traditional witch's broom is made of birch twigs. Magically, birch is associated with cleansing, protection, and purification. Oak, maple, pine, cedar, rowan, poplar, ash, willow, witch hazel, honeysuckle, apple, elder, and yew, hawthorn, and hazel. Beautiful names. And we've got the energies of flowers and how you can tap into them. Carnation, daffodil, daisy, gardenia, geranium, hyacinth, iris, jasmine, lavender, lilac, lily, lily of the valley, pansy, poppy, rose, snapdragon, sunflower, tulip, and violet. And then potent herbs and greens. See, these are really useful sections. They have nice summaries if you're looking for a really basic summary of the scent and the history and some of the cultural implications of these herbs. It's very brief, but it's a nice overview. Okay, so these are our herbs and greens here. Angelica, basil, bay, chamomile, which we have here, calendula, cinnamon, caraway, clove, comfrey, dill, ginger, marjoram, mint, mugwort, nutmeg, parsley, rosemary, sage, verbena, yarrow, moss, ferns, and grass. And then there's also this little bit on using stones. Moss agate, tree agate, amethyst, aventurine, bloodstone, carnelian, citrine, hematite, jade, jasper, lapis lazuli, malachite, moonstone, quartz, smoky quartz, rose quartz, clear quartz, snowflake obsidian, sodalite, tiger's eye, turquoise, and a little bit more on all of those stones. And then there's some information on how to keep a green witch garden. The garden is an important element of the green witch's practice. Working with nature does not always mean immersing yourself in the great outdoors. And some notes on designing your garden. Questions to ask yourself on the purposes of your garden. Tips on planting. Composting. Very interesting to put that in here. Insects. Air pollution. Okay. Creating and crafting green witch magic. So there's some tips on preparing herbs. Check your stock of preserved herbs and plants every year to see what you're low on and what has gone bad. When you harvest plant matter, always make sure that you know what part of the plant to harvest, whether you use leaves, stems, flowers, or the root. Never collect an entire plant. Never pull it up by the roots and take the whole thing home. Take only what you need and make sure that it's less than a quarter of what's available. In harvesting, less is more. Never assume that you should lay in a huge stock of something. You're unlikely to use it all, and you'll end up throwing most of it out. Before drying, shake, brush, or wash off any dirt. To air dry it, lay the leaves or flowers out on an old screen or on cheesecloth and allow it to dry in a well-ventilated area. It's very important. You can also bundle the stems together with an elastic band or string and hang the bunch indoors in a dry place with good air circulation out of direct sunlight. That's what I'll be doing with this chamomile, just securing the end of this branch and hanging it from a high place. And it says don't leave a bundle of herbs hanging for too long or it will become dusty. Slip it in a paper bag. Secure the bag around the stems if you want to prevent dust from showing up. And there's all sorts of tips on freezing herbs, how to do that. Infusion, decoction, and florage. Just the method by which oils and energies are extracted from herbal matter by soaking the herb in an oil or a fat. Maceration, and then there's like an index of herbal preparation, so salves, liniments, and soaps. All sorts of blessings. Oh, there's even a section on how to make herbal incense. Very cool. from what I've heard, it's not actually very hard. The rolling process is a little bit challenging to get to know how to do, but these are the different types of resin: copal, frankincense, myrrh, benzoin, styrax, dragon's blood, and sandalwood. Maybe for a video I could make a little bit of incense. It's something that I've always wanted to do, and I feel like this is the perfect place to do it. Crafting a dream pillow, garden spell bags. This book is quite thorough. How to make a broom. In chapter 2, you learned how to use a broom to purify an area. It's hard to find a natural bristle broom. That's very true. And it gives you a recipe of how to create a twig broom. So you need work gloves, newspaper, one stout stick, approximately 5 feet long, between 1/4 and 1 inch in diameter, a saw, sandpaper, twigs, approximately 18 inches long, no thicker than 1/4 inch each, wood glue, leather stripper cord, 5 feet long, at least 1/4 inch wide, for finishing nails, and a hammer. Wow. There are so many steps here, 11 steps, my gosh. Craft bombs or perfumes, those are always really fun. Garden stepping stones. And we're nearing the end of the book here. There's recipes for tea. I haven't tried any of them yet, but I often have a lot of herbs around in the summer months because I have a garden. Baths are an amazing way to relax and unwind, and you can put a lot of herbs in those as well. Restorative elixirs. Oh, and some kitchen witch recipes. It's kind of fun. Fruit recipes, the magical associations of fruit drinks. Wow. There's so many. Candied flowers, rose geranium water, infused sugars. This is amazing. This is a large part of why I bought this book, because the recipes just are so interesting and actually really useful, just in a practical sense. And there's a couple recommendations and a little index of all the different herbs, and then the bibliography. Oh, well, I really would like to make some of these tea blends. There's just some associations with fruits and vegetables, which I'm not familiar with at all. A recipe for milk baths and bath salts, and all sorts of really neat associations. So what a delight this book is. I am so glad that you could join me this evening for a little flip through of The Green Witch. And thank you so much for being here with me. I hope that you have a very restful sleep. And I'll see you again very, very, very soon. Good night.